exactly when they wanted you to. They miss him with that second job. Missed you.
In the blink of an eye.
Principal is down.
Nothing is what it seems.
The girl next to me took something, got shot, ran away.
Not even murder.
I knew something was wrong. I didn't know who I could trust.
Nicolas Cage. I'm not gonna let you kill her. Snake Eyes. Now playing.
This is one of those movies where you feel like they have a good idea to it, but it takes a couple films that are similar to this that come later down the road to really get the full advantage of what they were trying to accomplish here. You have Nicolas Cage as a detective. He's investigating a political assassination at a boxing match in Atlantic City, and you've got all these different witnesses, including this Navy commander played by Gary Sinise. Carla Gugino's a suspect in this, not a victim. John Hurd, Kevin Dunn, Luis Guzman. You're supposed to follow along with the film, and the movie that I keep thinking back to is a film they did 10 years later called Vantage Point, where I feel like they did that a little bit better there. I think that was a much better movie than what they were trying to do here. I give them credit, though, for trying to do something a little bit different and something unique in its style and the way that it's presented. The story, however, is where the film really does start to turns the film down a lot, big time. I mean, this is a story that really needed to be perfect to make it work, but right off the bat, you can kind of figure out who the bad guy is and who's the man responsible for who's the one responsible for everything that happens in here. And the mystery is just not there. It's just a film that does not have that mystery or fun aspect to it that really this movie should have to it. I mean, Vantage Point, I think, did it in a much better way. A couple years that we got 10 years afterwards, but like I said, I give them credit for seeing what they would do with this. And you know, it's Brian De Palma, man. Brian De Palma will make great films. You know, great films that may not be. He makes great films, but then again, he makes these films that aren't necessarily really good films, but they're films that have a lot of ambition to them, and you really do get invested in what's going on here. Plus, you have David Koepp, who, of course, is a very well-known writer in his own right. So you have all these pieces together, and there just isn't anything there to really make it stand out. And to its credit, it could have been a whole lot of more weirder. Like, there was a scene where they had this. There was an original ending where they had a huge tidal wave going through the casino, and it's like this big visual effects heavy ending that was cut from the movie and replaced with a reshot sequence. And it's just like I don't understand why you would need to throw that in there. I mean, how is there a tidal wave taking place? Well, then again, maybe it's in Atlantic City. I was thinking maybe this isn't Vegas, but no, this is Atlantic City. So maybe that makes a lot more sense, but just that concept alone just feels like it felt like someone rushed that in there because they knew that this film was going to probably lose audiences pretty quickly. And so they just said, here, just throw a tidal wave in there. Why not? And it's just like, and it doesn't really amount to anything, quite honestly. I mean, there's really nothing about that scene that really makes it something that needs to be seen in this particular film. It's also pretty interesting how this film almost went through different people. They went to Al Pacino at one point to give him the role that Gary Sinise plays, the commander. And then they went to Will Smith, and then Will Smith later dropped out of it because he wasn't offered enough money. But still, that probably would have been a better decision than what he would have made with Wild Wild West a year later. But we'll eventually get to that one. But yeah, this is one of those ones where I tried to get into it. I tried to get invested in what was going on, but sadly, there was just nothing there to really make it stand out or make it anything interesting on its own. Like, the story needed to be much more clever. The twist needed to be a little more interesting. Like I said, you really do figure out right away who's behind this, who's the bad guy, who's working for them, and so on and so forth. It just needed a little bit more of a spark to really get it going, but unfortunately, it's just not there with this film. A major disappointment on a number of levels, especially with the talent they have on board here. So that's Snake Eyes. So with that said, on to the next movie, and that is Halloween H2O, 20 years later.
He has pursued her relentlessly. He has hunted her everywhere. Now, 20 years later, the face of good and the face of evil will meet one last time. Jamie Lee Curtis, Halloween, 20 years later.
Yes, Halloween H2O, the sequel that basically tells you to forget everything that happened after Halloween 2. And then the remake trilogy came out, and that's the film that basically tells you to forget everything that happened after this film, quite honestly. And yeah, the Halloween series is really weird. But like I said, this is basically ignoring the Jamie Lloyd story arc of the previous 3 installments. It's a direct sequel to Halloween 2, and it brings back Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode, who has faked her death in order to go into hiding from her murderous brother, Michael Myers, who finds her working at a private boarding school in California, because why the hell not? I mean, if he did, we wouldn't really have a movie, honestly. And, like I said before, I've never really been invested in the Halloween movies, quite honestly. I remember the first one. I remember the second one. The third one's actually pretty good. I've barely seen any of the remake trilogy because it keeps getting worse and worse with every film. And I've never seen the Rob Zombie movies, and for good reason. So, but what do I want to say here? But yeah, I wish I could say some more about this one. But I guess to this one's credit, it is supposedly the best of the Halloween sequels, and I don't know. I'd still say Halloween 2 and Halloween 3 make more sense or at least somewhat more enjoyable than the other ones are. But this one is actually not that bad. It does a good job of bringing Michael and Jamie Lee Curtis back into play here. You do get some fun moments between the two of them, and I thought it was fine for what it is. But like I said, I barely kept up with the series. I haven't seen all the Halloween movies, but yeah, I didn't find this one too bad, honestly. It was a film I just thought it was just kind of like, it was alright, but I have no real intention on keeping up with this series, quite honestly. But yeah, not much more I can say about that one. Halloween H2O 20 years later. So with that said, on to the next movie, and that is Safe Men.
See a Jewish mafia, I'm sure that's much more like a club.
October Films presents a comedy.
I once sold a woman a pair of exploding slacks.
About 2 guys who are so incompetent, it's a crime.
Relax, he's not gonna kill you. Shut up!
Safe Men.
So this comes to us from John Hamburg, who has made some pretty decent films as a director, but mostly as a writer. Along Came Polly's a pretty standard film that has some couple of decent moments there, but his masterpiece is I Love You, Man, in terms of his directing, the films he's written and directed. But he also gave us the Meet the Parents series, Zoolander, Night School. So mostly good films. There's a couple of films that are not that great. Zoolander 2, for example. Little Fockers, Why Him? I've actually never seen Me Time, so I don't know if that's any good or not. But here you have Sam Rockwell and Steve Zahn playing in a pair of aspiring lounge singers who are mistaken for ace safecrackers. And you have Harvey Fierstein, Michael Lerner, and Paul Giamatti among the cast in here. And this is one I've never really seen, quite honestly. I've seen maybe a little bit of it here and there. I know there was a DVD they put out a long time ago, and you used to see that at stores for a long period of time, but I've never seen the film itself, so I don't really know if the film is any good or not. I'm guessing it probably isn't, but like I said, John Hamburg has moved on to has become more of a prolific writer and director with the films he's made afterwards. But there's at least, from the little bits I saw in this trailer, there is a little bit of a vibe of Bottle Rocket from Wes Anderson. Like he was trying to be like his own Wes Anderson type of person with the film, but I don't know. There wasn't really a whole lot of laughs from the trailers I saw from it, so it's probably not a film I'd really want to check out at some point. But I don't know. Might be something just for the cast alone. But yeah. Not much more to say about that one, and not much more to say about our last movie here. First Love, Last Rites. Well, this doesn't look like the most pretentious film ever. Basically, you have a story where you have this couple, they're two young lovers, and during a summer in Louisiana, fresh out of high school, they're entangled in a consuming love affair. How the couple met is not disclosed, but Joey's originally from Brooklyn, and Sissel is a local. In a house on stilts by the river, the couple do a little more than talk and have sex, with the occasional interruption by Sissel's younger brother, Adrian, played by Eli Marienthal, who you later know as the voice of Hogarth in The Iron Giant, as well as in American Pie. Sissel's parents are divorced. Her father, Henry, played by Robert John Burke from RoboCop 3, He's a Vietnam War veteran. He befriends Joey, and the two men look into trapping eels with the aim of selling them to sushi restaurants. And jealousy and communication issues start to creep into Joey and Sissel's relationship. Like I said, this sounds like a really pretentious movie, man. And that trailer does not do this film any favors. It's got some decent talents to it. You know, Natasha Gregson Warner, we've seen her in a lot of movies. Giovanni Ribisi. And just a good cast overall here, but just a film that feels like there's just not that much there. It just feels like a very pretentious film. And from the criticisms I see from it, it definitely shows in that trailer. The film's narrative isn't that strong. There's a lot of heavy-handed symbolism. It's like a film that's trying to say something and just say it right to your face. And it just doesn't sound like a film that's really all that interesting, quite honestly, and one that I really don't want to see. And I have no real interest in seeing, despite the fact this is directed by the same guy that gave us stuff like The X and Our Idiot Brother and Juliet Naked. And you know what? That's probably a good reason why I never wanted to see this movie, because I did not like The X, nor did I like Our Idiot Brother. So, yeah, that's a hard skip for me. So that's First Love, Last Rites.
The author of Waiting to Exhale.
I need 20 clients back to back.
For Stella, life was all work and no play.
You ain't been nowhere since I was a natural blonde.
Welcome to Jamaica.
I would like to dance with you. Honey, that boy is cute. He's just a kid.
Sometimes you have to break the rules
Do you care? Hell no.
to free your heart. Angela Bassett, Tay Diggs, and Whoopi Goldberg.
Would you feel better if he was 40?
How Stella Got Her Groove Back. Rated R. Coming August 14th.
So, as the trailer indicates, this is based off of a novel by Terry McMillan, the writer of Waiting to Exhale, and actually came out after Waiting to Exhale came out in '95. And here you have Stella Payne, played by Angela Bassett, who's a highly successful 40-something San Francisco stockbroker who is persuaded by her girlfriend Delilah, played by Whoopi Goldberg, to take a well-deserved first-class vacation to Jamaica. As she soaks in the beauty of the island, she encounters a young strapping islander played by Tay Diggs, and his pursuits for her turn into a hot and steamy romance that forces, okay, you can pretty much tell what this movie is going to be. I don't even need to finish the description to tell you what's going to happen, and honestly, I don't really have much more to say about it, because honestly, I've never seen the film before. It's a film that you've heard, is like, even if you haven't seen the movie, you've heard about it before. Like, Family Guy has made jokes about it, The Simpsons has made jokes about this movie, but the one thing I do know, this is directed by Kevin Rodney Sullivan, who also gave us Barbershop 2, Back in Business, and also Guess Who. And I've seen those movies, and I like those movies, but like I said, I haven't seen this one before. I don't hear too many bad things about it, per se. I think the performances enough carry it through. But again, not really much there I can really say about the film itself, because I've never seen it before. But from what I've seen from the trailers, it doesn't look bad, per se. I mean, it's got a great cast. I mean, Angela Bassett, Tay Diggs, Whoopi Goldberg, Regina King. When anything with Regina King in it is going to be watchable because of her. Glenn Turman is also in here as well. Victor Garber has a cameo in here. So there are people in here that make me kind of want to see the film, but like I said, I haven't really seen it, so I can't really say if it's any good or not, but I've not heard any bad things about it, so I'm going to assume it's probably not a bad movie, just from the stuff I've heard about it, but certainly can't say the same thing for our next movie, which I have seen, and yeah, don't let this trailer fool you. This movie's pretty bad. This is The Avengers.
Peel. Doctor, atomic scientist, poet.
How now, brown cow?
Meteorologist, physicist, marksman.
Are you paying attention?
John Steed, agent, member of secret elite intelligence arm. Traditional.
Good morning, Constable.
Stylish. Reserved. Lethal.
Dr. Peel, I presume.
Please, don't get up.
I wasn't going to. I was about to throw in the towel.
Extraordinary crimes against the people and the state must be avenged by agents extraordinary.
Time and place for everything.
Quite. If we still have an enemy.
Now is the winter of your discontent. The weather is no longer in God's hands, but in mine. Hundreds of millions will die. They'll drown, burn, freeze. And this is merely the beginning. Let our revels begin.
After tea.
Of course.
John Steve.
You'll pay for that.
Would you believe that this is Sean Connery's biggest regret he's probably ever made? And this is the guy that did The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. But at least that film at least lets him leave with some dignity to it, even though he was the producer on that. This film, not so much. I mean, just wow. I mean, that trailer completely lies to you. It gives you the stylized looking trailer, and it makes it look like it's kind of an interesting concept, but not so much. And you can probably tell that this is not based off the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is based off of the British TV series of the same name from the 1960s, where you have John Steed and Emma Peel, played here by Ray Fiennes and Uma Thurman, going up against a mad scientist played by Sean Connery, who's bent on controlling the world's weather. And it would be, I mean, look at it this way, Britain. You were is Lost in Space wasn't the only TV show to get completely destroyed by a movie in the 1990s. You guys got the Avengers destroyed for you big time with this film, and oh boy, this is a mess. This is a mess on so many different levels, not just from a story writing level, not just from an acting level, but just an idea from all the ideas this movie throws at you, like you cannot take this film threatening whatsoever. Sean Connery, God bless him, he's trying the best he can, but even he can't hold this for too much. All the stupidity of this movie is like, there's so many moments in here where he's asked to do some of the stupidest things ever. There's a scene in the movie where, I kid you not, he establishes a group of people, these highly, I can't remember what it was, but it was like a highly, like they go into this, it's like they go to this building where he owns, Wonderland Weather, and everyone's dressed up in teddy bear suits. How am I supposed to find that threatening? And Sean Connery, I have to think that Sean Connery looked at this and said, do we really want to go through with this, guys? And like it's just so stupid. And it's even stupider than that. There's this whole subplot about another Emma Peel who is clearly the person that is clearly a clone and used by somebody within this ministry, who's a backstabber, and you can kind of figure it out pretty quickly who the backstabber is, but doesn't really make a whole lot of sense there. They have these bees, these mechanical bees that I swear something out of John Peters when he was so desperate to get Superman to fight a mechanical spider. Like, his name's not attached to this, but you can just tell that his name his presence was there, and it just gets so stupid. It would be something if the cast was more than enough to carry it, but no. Like, Ray Fiennes and Uma Thurman, all they do in this movie is just banter. They have no emotions, and they just have no personality to them whatsoever. I've never seen the original TV series, but I have to assume that the original John Steed and Emma Peel had at least some chemistry to them, had at least something to keep you invested in watching the show, because it ran for 8 seasons. Like this, I don't get why they have no emotions whatsoever. Like, they have no emotions throughout the course of the movie. You feel nothing for them whatsoever. I mean, they're trying their best, but how do you try your best when you have no emotions in this performance whatsoever? It gets so ridiculous. There's an invisible man in here because there was an invisible man that was in an episode of the show, which you could clearly tell that these people had no idea what the TV show was about and saw it, because if that's one of the things that you have to throw in there because this invisible man was in a one-off episode of the show, it's just like, what else do I need to say about this movie? It's directed by the guy who did Christmas Vacation, too, because, I don't know, why not? I mean, this is the same guy that gave us such masterpieces as Diabolique and this makes no sense whatsoever. Nothing about this movie makes any sense whatsoever. I've never seen the TV show, but let me tell you, if I was a fan of the TV show, I'd be pissed off at the way that they destroyed this TV show, because my God, like, nothing happens in the movie. Nothing happens so much that literally there's nobody else in London. Like, how do you have nobody in London? London, England, what is a prime travel destination, and there's nobody on the streets whatsoever. They didn't give a crap about this movie at all, not at all. And you cannot convince me that they did. That there was some kind of idea that they did care, but no. There's no care given to this movie whatsoever. It tells you that this movie got pushed to the dumping ground month of August. Remember, August used to be a dumping ground month because, the summer movie season had just come to an end. Everyone's gone to see the big blockbusters, so whatever gets thrown here is just usually a piece of garbage back then. Nowadays, not the case. Nowadays, they actually do put their effort into putting stuff out every single week now, but back then, yeah, this was dead on arrival, and Warner Brothers knew it was bad. It was bad on so many levels. It just makes no sense. This whole movie is a disaster, and it's one of the worst movies you'll ever see. It's one of the worst things that you can easily sit through. Like, not even easily sit through. At 90 minutes, it's a struggle to sit through this garbage. That's how bad this movie is, that you can't sit there for an hour and a half to enjoy this movie, and you can't even do that. Like, just terrible movie. I'm just stretching time here, so what more do I need to say? Avengers, garbage movie. Yes, just stick with the Marvel one. So, here's some more garbage for you. Air Bud Golden Receiver.
The dynamic duo is at it again.
Buddy.
He's back. Well, that's the famous Air Bud, huh?
It's up to you and me, buddy.
Now, they're taking their team out of the doghouse
Hey, Flicker, on three.
and showing the world what best friends are made of. Air Bud Golden Receiver, rated G, starts Friday, August 14th. Because
it doesn't say in the rulebook that a dog can't play football. I mean, when are we going to get to the Air Bud movie where a dog kills a human being, and isn't someone realizes, oh, we can't arrest him because it doesn't say anywhere in the book that a dog can't kill somebody with a gun. And, like how many more of these? Like, they made so many of these Air Bud movies where this thing can be completely okay because there's no rules in any of the books that say a dog can't play sports, and it's just like, we just did it for everything. They did one about hockey, they did one about soccer, they did one about, I'm pretty sure there's one about baseball, and then after that, what else is there to do except just make a movie out of the puppies, and then after that, just spin it off into another series of films with the Santa Paws series. My God, there are so many different Air Bud movies here. It's like they're giving the Land Before Time movies they're giving the Land Before Time movies a chance to catch up to them, and that's just a shame, man. And this movie is just, what more do you need to say, man? The first movie wasn't even that great to begin with, and this, it's more the same, and even worse than that. Like, what else do I even need to say? It's Air Bud Golden Receiver. If you don't know what you're going into before you even enter the building, then you have a problem. And but hey, you get to see Warren Moon and Joey Galloway in here, I guess, because they go to a Seahawks game. So I guess that's something. 1998. So I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Let's go ahead and move on to hopefully a much better movie after the last two films we've looked at. Return to Paradise. How about that one?
In the whole world for 5 weeks. Why the hell we buy so much hash anyway? Oh, listen, guys.
He was arrested on drug charges.
8 days to live.
If you don't go back, Lewis will hang.
To make a choice.
You're talking about 3 years in prison.
To save a friend.
Lewis would have come back for either of us.
The day is almost over in Penang. It's already tomorrow.
Vince Vaughn, Anne Heche, and Joaquin Phoenix return to paradise.
Lewis, you are not alone right now.
Rated R.
It's a little bit better. Actually, far from it. I think it's actually much better than the last two movies we looked at. You basically have three friends sharing an exciting vacation in Malaysia full of fun, drinks, women, and hash. When the vacation's over, each have dreams of continuing their lives, and they all go their separate ways. But one of them, played by Joaquin Phoenix, is still on the tropical paradise to fulfill a dream of working with apes for research. And 2 years later, a lawyer, played by Anne Heche, comes to New York and hunts down the other two friends to give some sad news. A few days after they left the island, police raided their camp and found amazingly large quantities of hash around, and Phoenix was still residing there, so he had to take the blame, and he is set to be put to death in 8 days, and the only way the charges can be decreased is if the two friends come back to Paradise and take their share of the responsibilities. If they do, they will both spend 3 years in prison. If only one does, he will spend 6 years behind bars. So there is kind of an intriguing concept here. This is a remake of a 1989 French film called Force Majeure, which I've never heard of that movie before, but I guess this is sort of... it plays kind of a very interesting concept here, where you have 3 friends. One of them's about to be in prison for a long time, and the other 2 have to come back in order to save this guy, to basically save this guy's life, and you don't know what is going to happen at this point. Once it's all said and done. And I gotta give the movie credit for really taking some good twists and turns here. I did not expect this to go the way I thought it was going to, especially from this director, Joseph Rubin, who's made some notoriously bad films. Sleeping with the Enemy, The Good Son, Money Train. He also did The Stepfather in the 80s. So he's not been a great director, but it's one of the few films where he's actually made a pretty decent film, and has a nice twist at the end that you don't really see coming. I like the way it kind of wraps everything up. It's a well-done film. I'd actually say definitely check it out. It's definitely worth a watch if you can find it. So, with that said, on to the next movie, and that is Slums of Beverly Hills. So you have a story following a teenage girl played by Natasha Lyonne, who's struggling to grow up in 1976 in a lower middle-class nomadic Jewish family that relocates every few months. So you have her, Marissa Tomei, Alan Arkin, David Krumholtz, Kevin Corrigan, Jessica Walter, and Carl Reiner among the cast here. This is written and directed by Tamara Jenkins, who did The Savages, which is a great film with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Laura Linney in it. But I have never seen this movie, and this is the film that kind of introduced the world to Natasha Lyonne before she eventually broke out with American Pie. In fact, Mina Savari, who's in the American Pie movies as well, is also in here as well. Also Rita Moreno, Eli Marienthal. It's got a good cast overall. I've just never seen the film. It's a film I've been wanting to see for a long time, though. I've wanted to check it out for a while. I've just never gotten around to checking it out. But I definitely want to see it at some point. If I can find it somewhere at a good price, I'll definitely check it out. But it's a film I'm definitely very curious about, so not much more to say about that one. That's Slums of Beverly Hills. So on to the last movie, which is Behind the Lines or Regeneration, whichever place you go to online.
In the whole world for 5 weeks. Why the hell we buy so much hash anyway? I'm missing you guys.
He was arrested on drug charges.
8 days to live.
If you don't go back, Lewis will hang.
To make a choice.
You're talking about 3 years in prison.
To save a friend.
Lewis would have come back for either of us.
The day is almost over in Penang. It's already tomorrow.
Vince Vaughn, Anne Heche, and Joaquin Phoenix return to paradise.
Lewis, you are not alone right now.
Rated R.
Yeah, in Britain it was called Regeneration, but in the U.S. it's called Behind the Lines. So you basically have stories of the number of officers of the British Army during World War I who are brought together in a Craig Lockhart War Hospital where they're treated for various traumas. It follows the story of Siegfried Sassoon, his open letter reprinted in the Times criticizing the conduct of war and his return to the front. You have Jonathan Pryce among the cast, as well as Johnny Lee Miller and John Neville. And that's pretty much everything I know about this one because I've never seen it before. This is directed by Gillies McKinnon, who did A Simple Twist of Fate, which we talked about before in the past. Is it a she or he? He, okay. Simple Twist of Fate's the only film that I know of his that I've seen of his, but yeah, I don't know about anything else that he's done. I think he also did. No, I thought he did Trojan War, but that was another film that he did, Trojan Eddie. But like I said, I don't really have anything more to say about it because honestly, I've never seen the film, so I can't really say if it's any good or not. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Regeneration.
Tonight, they awaken. A secret race hidden here among us. should be ruling the humans.
It knows no bounds.
The world belongs to us, not the humans.
They have no fear. But one.
There are worse things out tonight than vampires.
Like what?
Like me. There's a war going on out there. Blade, myself, we killed as many of them as we can find.
Part human, part immortal.
I know all about you. Daywalker.
He alone has the power of both worlds.
All our strengths, none of our weaknesses.
And when the world of the living is at an end, he alone can turn back the tide.
You're nothing to me but another dead vampire. The weapons. I use them.
Blade.
So something we kind of have to remember about Blade is that a couple years prior to this, Marvel had a Fantastic Four film produced by Roger Corman, and it was supposed to come out in theaters. They had a big push for everything. And then at the last minute, they canceled the theatrical release because the movie just ended up being bad. And so bad that it has never gotten an official release, except for bootleg copies, and it put a huge dent in Marvel's plans for movie making, much like how Batman and Robin and Steel the previous year put a dent in DC's plans for a little bit. And it would take Marvel a few years to try to get back into the game, and their first attempts to get back into it was with Blade. And, yeah, right from the trailer alone, you could pretty much tell that there was definitely a sense of improvement, and the fact that Marvel hired people who actually read the comics and actually made an effort to make a really good movie. And they did pretty much just that. I mean, it's a film where you have a world where vampires walk the earth, and you have this guy named Blade, played by Wesley Snipes, who has a goal. His goal is to get rid of the world of all vampire evil. When Blade witnesses a vampire bite, Dr. Karen Jensen, he fights away the beast and takes Jensen back to his hideout. Here, alongside Abraham Whistler, played by Chris Christopherson, Blade attempts to help heal Jensen, and the vampire Quinn, who was also attacked by Blade, reports back to his master, Deacon Frost, played by Stephen Dorff, who's planning a huge surprise for the human population. And right off the bat, man, this movie benefits from a fantastic performance by Wesley Snipes, who clearly makes this character his own, and also the movie has so many great visual effects to it that still hold up at 25 years later. It makes the movie very enjoyable just on those merits alone. They are close to the levels of what Dark City did in terms of making this kind of a visual masterpiece on the level of Blade Runner. They don't quite necessarily get there, but they're pretty damn close. The action sequences are very well done, too. The final climax between Blade and Frost is well done. The cast overall is okay, I guess. Most of them are mostly forgettable. I mean, with the exception of Chris Christopherson as Whistler, I think he's the best thing about the supporting cast. Deacon Frost is a little too over the top for his own good, and his plans for world domination isn't really all that thought out. It's kind of generic in a way. And also, in Bush Wright, who plays Karen Jensen, is also kind of pretty bland. It's just playing the sort of love interest to Blade, even though they don't say flat out that she's the love interest. Like, her character doesn't really feel like there's really a need for her to be there. But the other big fault the movie has overall is that it does have a weak story. The elements of the film have no purpose to them whatsoever. You expect much more in the scripting department for a character like this, but I mean, give it to Snipes and Christopherson for working with the material they had, because they made them the most memorable characters in the movie. And while Blade wasn't the thing that completely helped us forget the summer's double whammy of Batman and Robin and Steel, it did prove that comic book movies were far from dead and still had the potential for greatness that they would later show down the road. And Blade was the first film to really show that don't count out comic book movies just yet. I mean, we're not at that point yet where they became great, but we're getting pretty close. So Blade works just on those levels enough to recommend it. It's definitely something you should watch. So that's Blade. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Mark Paul Gosselaar and Tom Edward Scott in the comedy Dead Man on Campus.
Hello?
Do you like scary stories?
Sure. What's it about?
Freshman year, Cat Paulist.
to the theater. One of the laziest college movies I've ever seen. This is a film where it centers on the urban legend that a student gets straight A's at their roommates commit suicide. The term is passed by catastrophe. Basically, I have two failing friends, played by Mark Paul Gosselaar and Tom Everett Scott, attempting to find a depressed roommate to push them over the edge to receive A's. And I guess in some ways there's a good joke, there's a good story around here. I mean, the co-writer is Mike White, who later give us stuff like School of Rock, and then of course gave us The White Lotus. But other than that, though, the movie just doesn't really deliver on all the things that this film could deliver. Like, there's a good concept here, there's a good fun concept here that could be possible, but the film just never really executes it. And Tom Everett Scott and Mark Paul Gosselaar are two really good comedic actors, but they just can't make this material work, and it suffers big time because of it. It's not really an engaging story. It's not really all that funny. It's very dumb, but like I said, I mean, the best thing I could say about the movie is that Tom Everett Scott and Mark Paul Gosselaar have some funny moments. In fact, Mark Paul Gosselaar, he's only a couple years away from playing Zach Morris on Saved by the Bell. I couldn't remember what his name was, but you know, for somebody to go from Saved by the Bell to this, I gotta give him credit. I mean, he made it work. He made it funny. I mean, he did what Elizabeth Berkley couldn't do at first, and really branched out as a leading adult actor here. And he followed this up with NYPD Blue, and he's shown that this guy's got some acting chops, and I gotta give him the credit for that. I mean, he makes this film somewhat redeemable, but not redeemable enough for me to recommend it. It's a film that really is clearly an MTV TV movie blown up for the big screen, and that's pretty much all you can say about it. It's not that great of a movie, and you can easily just skip it. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about Dead Man on Campus. So anyway, on to the next movie, and that is Vanessa Williams in Dance With Me.
How do you dance without music? It comes from the music.
It's choreography. I compete professionally in the Latin dances.
I'm Latin, but I've never seen a Latin dance that looks like that.
Stick around.
Or as I consider it, watch Vanessa Williams dance around and provocatively with this young Cuban guy. I mean, literally, like, the trailer literally is just scenes of Vanessa Williams trying to look sexy while she's dancing to the Latin beat. You basically have a story where you have this young Cuban named Raphael, played by Cheyenne, who's just buried his mother. He comes to Houston to meet his father, John Burnett, played once again by Chris Christopherson, 2 movies he's in this weekend. But the difficult part is that John doesn't know he is Raphael's father, and John runs a dance studio, and everyone prepares for the World Open Dance Championship in Las Vegas, and soon becomes clear that he's a good dancer, and Ruby Sinclair, played by Vanessa Williams, is the biggest hope for the studio at the championship. And you've seen the story done over and over again. It's not really all that new or anything interesting, sadly, but like I said, I feel like it's just a movie to show Vanessa Williams in these provocative risque dance moves and all that type of stuff. It's directed by Randa Hines, who gave us Children of a Lesser God and also The Doctor with William Hurt. But this was kind of towards the end of her career as a director. She only directed a couple of other movies after this, and none that are really memorable per se. But yeah, that's all I really remember from this movie. I just remember seeing Vanessa Williams, like, she's in these, she's literally in positions where she's trying to look sexy when, I mean, she was already looking sexy back then, but like, it just really didn't. It really felt like they were just pushing it on you to try to make you forget that the story is not really all that inventive. It's not really all that clever, and for that, the film suffers kind of big time, and it just really becomes a mostly forgettable film, largely because it is a very forgettable film. So, yeah, not much more to say about Dance With Me, but let's get to probably my personal favorite movie of the weekend. It's Leslie Nielsen in the spoof comedy Wrongfully Accused.
Paulist. An accused murderer. I'm innocent. A fugitive from justice. There's a murderer on the loose! This summer. Taking you in. I'm not going back. Wherever it is. Leslie Nielsen is wrongfully accused.
I feel like I'm flying.
So yeah, Wrongfully Accused is a spoof comedy with Leslie Nielsen, and it's written, produced, and directed by Pat Proth, who gave us The Naked Gun as well as Hot Shots. And Leslie Nielsen basically plays a man who's been framed for murder and desperately attempts to expose the true culprits. And as you can tell, the film is a parody of The Fugitive. It's also a parody of other films, other different TV shows at the time. There's Baywatch. I mean, there's Titanic you saw in the trailer. I mean, there's just Anaconda. I mean, there's just a lot of parodies in here. Charlie's Angels, Mission Impossible, Field of Dreams, Braveheart, North by Northwest. I mean, there's a lot of parodies in this movie. And normally this would be seen as a bad thing, especially when you consider the films of Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer. But here's the difference, though. This is actually written by people who can make that stuff funny. Pat Proth made this funny. Leslie Nielsen makes this funny. This is a really, really funny movie. There's a lot of great memorable lines in here. Leslie Nielsen just fits the role of this character. The basic ripoff of the character from The Fugitive, Harrison Ford's character. I mean, he plays it to perfection here. I mean, the movie is just so damn funny. There's just so many memorable moments in this movie that are just so damn funny. He's just great in the film. Richard Crenna, who plays basically the Tommy Lee Jones character from The Fugitive, in this is very good. Sandra Bernhard, Kelly LeBrock, Melinda McGraw. Just a really damn good cast. And just, like I said, it's funny. It's a movie that's worthy of being involved, of Leslie Nielsen's involvement, because, as I've said before, Leslie Nielsen can make this stuff funny. He knows how to make these movies work. Even if they're really stupid, even if they're not the greatest movies ever, he makes this stuff funny, and it shows in this film. He gives it his all in here. It's just really, really funny stuff. Like, this is the film that Spy Hard was trying to be, and didn't work. But this is the film that just makes it work, because the jokes are much more clever, the humor is much funnier, it doesn't have the bad writing of Friedberg and Seltzer involved. It's just classic Zucker Abrams, Pat Proth style comedy that you remember from stuff like The Naked Gun and Airplane and Hot Shots. I mean, this is what you expect when you get really good writers to make spoof movies that really are funny. And sadly, this was the last of the dying breed before it was eventually changed over, starting with the Wayans brothers and what they did with Scary Movie a couple years later. But we have some good memories with this one. At least I have some good memories of this one. I love this one a lot. I really cannot recommend this one enough. Seek this movie out if you want to see the last great spoof comedy from back when the spoof comedy actually meant something. Just a phenomenal movie. Not even a phenomenal movie, but a fun movie. I can't recommend it enough. Definitely seek this one out if you haven't seen it already. So that's Wrongfully Accused. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie here, and that is Your Friends and Neighbors.
Your Friends and Neighbors is electrifying, Red's Rolling Stone. A brutally funny sex comedy. We need to treat each other like meat. Roger Ebert gives it 4 stars. You feel that it was me? It's me. Is it me? I don't think so. Shamefully irresistible, says Premiere Magazine.
When I'm making love, I want to chat.
And the New York Times calls it the work of an original filmmaker who takes no prisoners.
She says I talk. I'm accused of speaking.
Your Friends and Neighbors. A provocative little scene. Rated R. Now playing.
From the same man that gave us In the Company of Men. This is a film where you have a theater inspector named Jerry who starts an affair with Mary and then starts a chain of events that affects their respective partners, Terry and Barry, and other characters in the film, creating a web of relationships. And just kind of like In the Company of Men, you have all these different characters you're following. Amy Brenneman, Aaron Eckhart, Catherine Keener, Natasha Kinski, Jason Patrick, Ben Stiller. And you have all these crazy situations going on here. And this is kind of what you expect from a Neil Butte movie. This is what you expect from the same director that did In the Company of Men. But it's trying to be a little too Woody Allen-ish in a way, with especially with some of the designs of like the poster and all that. It feels like a Woody Allen movie, but a decent film nonetheless. I mean, it has a lot of elements that make for a fun little black comedy, and it's very polarizing. You're either going to really get into the black comedy aspects of it, or you're really going to be feeling very unpleasant about it. It's a film that can go either way. Me personally, I kind of enjoyed it for what it was trying to go for. I think it did a pretty good job of what they were trying to deliver. It's not even a fun film. It's a good film. I'd say definitely check it out. If you like In the Company of Men, I think you might like Your Friends and Neighbors. So not much more to say about that one. Actually, not much more to say about the other movies, because I've not seen any one of them, honestly. So we can be real quick on these last three. So let's start with the next movie we have here, and that is Strike, or whatever title they go with this film.
Miss Goddard's Academy.
Miss Goddard's is the finest girls' school in the East.
Is getting a little surprise.
This school will admit the opposite sex.
What? Men on the floor!
From Miramax Films.
This is the best thing to happen since my dog.
Comes the story of a group of friends
Which is gonna have to adjust. Miss Goddard's girls are very talented.
who are going to teach their school
He's mine.
a few lessons.
Would you like to come up to my room with us? Miss Goddard's girls are very organized.
Get ready.
Out.
Girls
Take off.
will be girls.
This situation must be under control.
Marina, you've missed an entire period.
You mean I'm pregnant?
Kirsten Dunst, Gabby Hoffman, Monica Kino, Rachel Lee Cook.
That was breathtaking.
All I want to do.
Sure, why not? Let's go with All I Want to Do. Pretty young and really good casting here. Kirsten Dunst, Gabby Hoffman, Monica Kina, Heather Matarazzo, Rachel Lee Cook. You basically have a story where Lynn Redgrave as the head mistress. Basically, the story is that it takes place in the 1960s and focuses on several students plotting and sabotaging a proposed merger for the school to go co-ed. And really, just from the look of the trailer, it looks like a typical college sex comedy, but not even a college sex comedy because it's not a college, it's a preparatory school. But I don't know. I've never seen it before, like I said, so I don't really know if it's any good. It basically went straight to video when this came out in the U.S., even though it had a limited theatrical release. But yeah, I don't really know anything about it because I haven't seen it before. And the trailer didn't look too bad, but it definitely didn't look great either. So it definitely could be one of those films like, it might be a little bit of an underrated gem, but I'm not putting my money on that. So not much more to say about that one. That is Strike, or All I Want to Do, or whatever the hell the title is it's supposed to be. On to the next movie, and that is Next Stop Wonderland.
I didn't mean it to be this way. The reasons why I'm leaving are on this tape. It points out the 6 points of why I think our relationship is doomed.
Really? Well, what's her number?
Miramax Films presents a new comedy for the incurable romantic in all of us.
That's my fat, right?
Things are not what they seem. Expect a romantic encounter.
That's a totally random act.
No, Aaron, that is fate.
Wonderland Station will be next. Next stop, Wonderland.
I gotta say, Philip Seymour Hoffman, what he did there was kind of a dickish move, but I kind of admire him for that. If anything, that kind of makes me want to see the movie just to see how that went. But you have Hope Davis here playing a nurse, and her longtime boyfriend Seymour Hoffman has dumped her, and her mother Piper, played by Blythe Danner, plays as a personal ad for her. Meanwhile, the film follows the life of Alan, who's a volunteer at a local aquarium who dreams of becoming a marine biologist. So will their paths cross, or... yeah, of course their paths are going to cross. Why wouldn't they? He's played by Alan Gelfand. And some notable names you may not have seen if you've seen the trailer for this. You see Hope Davis and Philip Seymour Hoffman, Cara Bueno, but Sam Cedar. Sam Cedar may not be a name you're familiar with, but you have definitely heard of if you've seen the show Bob's Burgers. He plays Hugo on Bob's Burgers. He also has a daily political talk show, The Majority Report. But speaking of Bob's Burgers, guess who's also in the movie? Bob Belcher himself. H. John Benjamin is in the movie. So is Robert Klein. So is Callie Thorne from Rescue Me. I mean, it's directed by Brad Anderson, who gave us The Machinist with Christian Bale. So many pieces there to make for a pretty entertaining movie. I mean, anything H. John Benjamin touches is going to be at least something you need to see. So this is something I want to see at some point. I never got around to seeing it. Plus, that scene in the beginning of the trailer kind of makes me want to see it even more. So I don't know. Maybe one day I'll definitely check this one out, because my curiosity is definitely piqued on that one. So that's Next Stop Wonderland. And so let's go ahead and move on to the last movie we have here, and that is The Eel.
多摩区若川町の山下拓郎です。たった今妻を殺しました。
So as you can tell, this is a film made in Japan. You basically have a white-collar worker, Yamashita, finding out that his wife has a lover visiting when he's away, suddenly returns home and ends up killing her. So after 8 years in prison, he returns to live in the small village, opens a barber shop. He was trained as a barber in prison, and talks almost to no one except for the eel he befriended in prison. And one day he finds the unconscious body of Keiko, who attempted suicide, and reminds him of his wife. She starts to work at the shop, but he doesn't let her become close to him. Certainly a very interesting film, and only in Japan, I guess. Not much more to say about it, except that this is based off of a novel called On Parole by Akira Yoshimura, which combines elements from this director's 1966 film, The Pornographers. And, again, that's pretty much all I really know about this movie. I've never seen it before. Has some stuff there that could make for something very interesting, whether it's actually good or just weird on so many levels, but my interest is kind of piqued, so I don't know. Maybe one day I'll check this one out, but I'm not making any guarantees on that one. So that is The Eel.
Did you ever hear about Steve Rubell? The guy was a genius. He took this club in New York and turned it into the center of a universe. He comped the designers, the photographers, and the record people, and the models, actors, and rock stars followed right behind them. The key to the magic was Steve controlled the door.
Right over there.
It didn't matter if you were a plumber or a supermodel.
Sorry, man, not with that shirt. I said not with that shirt.
If you looked hot enough, you were in.
Welcome to my party.
54 is fun. Mike Myers gives a brilliant, Oscar-worthy performance. Ryan Phillippe, Salma Hayek, with Neve Campbell and Mike Myers. 54.
And I say sort of a following because, yeah, this is one of those weird ones that has somewhat of a following. I mean, it was not a big hit critically when it came out, but it made decent money at the box office, and Miramax basically put out these different director's cuts. There was a director's cut in 2008, and then there was another one in 2015, which was a new edit, which had like over 45 minutes of original material put back in here and 30 minutes of studios reshoots removed. It's a very complicated film. There's like 3 different versions of this movie that are out. None of them are really all that good, honestly. This is basically the story about the famous nightclub, Studio 54, during the 1970s and the early 80s. And you have Mike Myers in here playing Steve Rubell, the man who was behind it all. And, of course, you have Ryan Phillippe, Salma Hayek, Neve Campbell among the cast. But, like I said, the movie, no matter which version you watch, is not really all that good. In fact, it's kind of a generic movie. It's a film that's trying to... It wants to be like something like a Boogie Nights, but Boogie Nights did it a whole lot better. But it wants to be more mainstream, too, at the same time. And I think that was the biggest problem with the film, because it doesn't really know what kind of a direction it wants to take. It wants to take some of these hot young stars, Ryan Phillippe, Salma Hayek, Neve Campbell, and also you have Mike Myers coming off of Austin Powers, and doing something a little bit that's outside of his norm. In fact, he's the one thing that I'll give credit for. He actually is pretty good in the movie. It's very interesting to see him do a role where, you know, he's kind of outside his norm, and he'd very rarely go on and do that. Like Inglourious Basterds was another one, and then there was also Bohemian Rhapsody, where, again, he was one of the few things about that movie I actually really, really enjoyed. It was like his brief little appearances playing the manager of the Queen of the record company that Queen is for Queen, and the guy has some talent to him. It's just that he had a little bit of an ego too, but. I mean, that's the one thing I'll give the movie credit for. He's actually really good in this film, but everybody else, it really doesn't know what kind of a direction it wants to go into. It doesn't know if it wants to be a mainstream movie or something that's more on the lines of a Boogie Nights, Boogie Nights will be remembered more than this movie did. That's basically the biggest fault with the movie, is that Boogie Nights had a better story, better characters, better writing overall, better direction. This does not, and it feels like it suffered big time because it had dealt with studio interference, and then all the different versions that came out, I never saw one good version of this movie, to be quite honest with you, and I think this movie only existed because of the rising star power of its three young leads, and they've made much better movies besides this film, but, yeah, that's just all I remember from that film. That's 54, so, we have another music-based movie next up here, and that is Why Do Fools Fall in Love?
It's one of the all-time greats.
I'm Miss Frankie Lyman. I'm Mrs. Frankie Lyman. I am Mrs. Frankie Lyman.
One husband.
Frankie!
Millions of dollars at stake.
Am I to understand that there are 3 women claiming to be the widow of Frank Lyman deceased?
Halle Berry, Vivica A. Fox, Leela Rashan, Little Richard, and Lorenz Tate. Why do fools fall in love?
From the same man that gave us Selena, now we have another musical biographical film, this time centering around Frankie Lyman, the lead singer of the rock and roll group Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers, and it basically follows the 3 different women in his life. Each of them claim to be married to Lyman and lay claim to his estate. The 3 women are Halle Berry, Vivica A. Fox, and Leela Rashan. You also have Lorenz Tate playing Frankie Lyman and Little Richard playing himself in the movie. And it's kind of on the same levels as something like Selena. Not a perfect film overall, but a good enough film that I would say is definitely worth a watch, especially to see some really good performances from the 3 leading actresses in here. Halle Berry, Vivica A. Fox, and Leela Rashan. And even Lorenz Tate is very good in the movie. Little Richard, it's Little Richard being Little Richard. I mean, he basically was playing himself. I mean, obviously he's playing himself, but I will say Miguel A. Nunez Jr. plays him in the early 50s, and he wasn't half bad. He actually does play the role pretty well, and if they were to make that biopic about him, he would have been perfect for this. But other than that, nothing too spectacular about the movie, but it is a good film. I'm glad I saw it, so I'd say definitely check it out. If you like Selena, you'd probably enjoy this one a lot too. So that's Why Do Fools Fall in Love. So let's wrap this one up with the last one we have here, I Married a Strange Person. Now, as you can tell from that animation style, that is the work of Bill Plimpton, and I thought at first this was just in one of those compilation films of his various shorts, because he's most known for his short films, such as Your Face and also 12 Tiny Christmas Tales. But if you've definitely seen his work before. If you've seen some of his animation, you can definitely tell that's his work. But this is an actual feature film. You basically have a newlywed develops as a strange love. A newlywed basically develops a strange lump on his neck that gives him the ability to transform people or objects at will. His wife is very upset. Meanwhile, the CEO of this company, Smile Corp, learns of this man and his abilities and sees a way to achieve world domination if only the man can be taken alive. So, certainly a lot going on in this movie. Now, the bad thing about this is that I have not seen this film, and I like Bill Plimpton's work. I've seen a lot of his shorts. I've seen a lot of his stuff from The Simpsons. I've seen 12 Tiny Christmas Tales. I had no idea that the Your Face segment was actually a short film before I saw it first on The Simpsons, when Homer did the exact same thing. But this is also the guy that did Don't Download This Song and TMZ for Weird Al Yankovic. I mean, he's a great animator, and I had no idea that he made several movies. He actually made several of them. The Toon, Mutant Aliens, Hair High, Idiots and Angels, Cheatin', Hitler's Folly, Revergence. A number of films I never even knew about, but yeah, this is... I gotta catch up with this guy's work. I mean, I like his work a lot. I had no idea he made that many different animated films, so yeah, I really do want to see his work. Unfortunately, I have not seen this one, so I can't really say about the quality of this film, but it's probably got some great animation to keep it going. I mean, it's Bill Plimpton, man. Bill Plimpton makes great animation regardless of what he does, so something I'll definitely check out one day. So that's I Married a Strange Person.